summers.
What's up? Travel Chronicles. It's been a while, mostly due to the fact that I needed to clean my phone off because I didn't have any memory. So I did that, and we're back. I'm not sure what to call this one. Maybe the Reminiscing Chronicles. I don't even know if it's reminiscing really. I seen some stuff, old family videos. I watched an old video of the Travel Chronicles yesterday while I was trying to clean my phone off. I was listening to them just to, kind of get a feel for what I was doing. Good possibility one of them gets blocked again because of the stuff I was talking about. I realized that I had 3 of them where I was talking about the illness thing that happened there in 2020 that had gotten blocked because of what I had said. So I'm not going to get into the details. Maybe someday YouTube will lighten up their restrictions on that and appreciate it as something that was more in historical context. But for whatever reason, they banned them. So maybe this one won't get uploaded eventually because the whole channel will be banned. I'm a rebel. But no, I was thinking of, I was listening to my videos and, I'm scrolling through them and they're pretty well, I don't want to say hidden, but, I haven't advertised them or promoted them or anything like that. So, yes, they live in relative obscurity, just in the shadows. One view here, another there. Maybe it's something where I watched it myself at some point. But it's it's interesting because what am I going to do with this? I'm thinking about my family. I have no videos of my dad. None. So I don't know who will watch this in the future. My intent was to do 100 videos during the pandemic and then, kind of give them to my kids as my blog of that period. Is that narcissistic? It's like, oh, they're going to want to watch me. And, probably not. Maybe it's interesting to see Dad over 4 or 5 years. Maybe not. I was thinking if I had videos of my dad or, tape recordings or something, I would probably listen to those. Probably hold on to them. Be interesting to hear what he was thinking during different periods. Kind of in that reminiscing mood that I don't call it whimsical, but thinking back because today was a mowing day. I still have my mom and dad's house, my old house, my house now. And I watched the video from when my mom was in it in 2021 when she fell and broke her hip because I'd clipped that. I'd shared it with family, so they could, see what she did because I don't know. It's like, oh, here's what she did. Here's where she broke her hip, and it's funny watching that, and it's like the moment before she falls, when she's standing there looking out the window, trying to see what's going on, and it's like that right there is the last moment where she's at that peak of her life, that last end thing, and then it's all downhill from here. She broke her hip. It's varying levels of downhill, but it's downhill. It was a slow decline for a long time. For 3.5 year period, but that 3.5 years was arguably the worst 3.5 of her life. And my dad, when he died, the last 2 years were probably the worst of his life. I mean, although he was in World War II and was a coal miner and did a lot of other things that were probably, not great, but, at least he was able to, do whatever he wanted to do. He had his free time. But, the last 2 years he didn't. He was mostly inside. Couldn't hunt, couldn't fish. He'd given up smoking and drinking, to try and cure himself or help himself as best he could. But it was, too little, too late. I don't know. They kind of botched the one surgery, so that didn't help. It's just, and I think about what my dad did, because the house that's out there, where it's at, he had all this property, and obviously that's before any thought of an oil drill boom. But funny thing is, that property he didn't actually have the mineral rights to. Somebody else had those. Whoever had it before him, and I don't know the whole story. See, that's the other thing you miss out on, is because, when I'm 17, 18 years old, it's like, oh, well, how did you get that property? And it was a question that never entered my mind. Who had it before you? I don't know. I mean, I'm sure my brother does. I'm sure he knows the backstory. I should probably ask him about how Dad came into that property, because it wasn't my grandpa. He didn't do that. Dad had that property though, farmed. He was outside, and he sold off all the property except for 2 acres, and that's where he built a house with my mom. And it's interesting because the house sits up probably not higher than anywhere. There was a part of a field that was higher, but the land that would have went within, like, that was hayfield. Where he built the house is hayfield, but would have been hayfield. Was the other property probably wasn't as good to live on as what this was. So, thinking back on it, it's like, he had the vision to have that idea of keeping that land, putting the house on it, where he put it, and 40 years, well, almost 50 years later, it's still in a pretty good spot. It's nice to sit there and look out. It's like, man, it's really, really pretty here. And the thing I miss about my house where I live is it's down in the holler. You don't see the sunset. So some nights it's nice to drive and see the sunset. But, Dad had that vision for what it could be and what he valued and things. And he would have been 50. Yeah, so I'm almost there. I'm still 6 years away. So since the last video that I made, I don't know if I've uploaded it or not. I probably have. Hard to tell which one it was. I know the Last Ride series kind of came in here. Then I uploaded a bunch of other ones, old ones. Got some other ones to upload. So maybe I'll do those in sequence, and this will be after all that. But shoot, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, between the last 2 videos, I was the same age as what my mom was when she had me. So I passed that threshold where I was exactly half of my mom's age, and now I will forever be more than half her age. But I mean, she passed away, so I didn't do the math to see when I got to that point. I just know that if she was still alive, that would have been, I was half her age right then. She's 95 and I would have been 47. So because that's the age that she was when she had me, so that's how you figure out that. My dad was 53 though, almost 54 when he had me. And the crazy thing is, another crazy thing, so and maybe this is Mandela effect, right? But it's I don't think it is. For the longest time, I thought he was born in 1922, but he was born in 23. So he was 6 years older than my mom. So she was 47, he was 53 when they had me. And for a while, I was 54. Dad was 54. It took, even before that, though, I had it all screwed up. I had it screwed up for like the longest time of how old he actually was when he had me. I used to just say 50, and that wasn't right. It's 53. But I still have another, 6 years until I'm I'm half of his age, which is wow. He'd been 106. Actually probably 107 at that point because of how old he was. Right, because if you double it, it's 53 and 11 months. So yeah, I think you pick up another year. I think that's how that works. No, I'll be 53. I'll be 53 in 11 months. It'll be August. Math. Sometimes math is hard. But, just thinking about how you put that out there, it was, what a great spot. Because you can see the sunset from the side, and you can see the sun rise on the other side. And it's a modest house. It's nothing grandiose. It's not a mansion. It's not. He did put an addition on it, when he got older. I would have changed the driveway. That was one thing I would have done. But thinking about, if my dad had made videos, would I watch them? Yeah, I'd watch them. It'd be interesting to hear what he had to say. I think. Even if I just let it play while I was doing something else. And that's kind of what I did yesterday. I just let it play. This is stuff I'm recording while I'm driving somewhere, either to work or from work. And a lot of times it's long drives and there's nothing else to do. And I've got a lot of stuff running through my head, right? Like I was mowing the grass today thinking about fourth dimensional stuff, time dilation, Einstein-Rosen bridges, dumb crap, simulation. We're all living in a simulation. I heard that. I've heard it before, but I listened to a podcast, Joe Rogan, where he was talking to a guy who was like, "Oh yeah, I believe it. I believe we're in a simulation." And it's like, I don't know how you believe that. And it's like there's varying levels of the simulation, right? So it's not. Is it just me? Is it everything simulated around me? And one theory he threw out was everything was simulated back to the Big Bang, and we're just, moving along and see what happens. So is the simulation going at, 1,000x speed, and everything just seems normal speed to us? Which threw me into, the thought process of time as a man-made construct, and time dilation, and ports, and different dimensions. So, it all connects. But I think the simulation theory I don't think it's valid. It doesn't make any sense to me. And I don't know if the problem is trying to describe human consciousness, right? Because AI is a big thing right now. So it's like, we're trying to develop AI to get to the point where, it's running the simulation, or, it's running another simulation, or whatever. We're inside something that we're trying to figure out how to build now, basically. I don't know. I don't even know if that's the end goal. Where does the simulation end? So the AI, path or whatever you want to call it, is human beings have consciousness, this level of consciousness. And I don't know how you describe it, but you have a realization of your own mortality, right? Where other animals probably don't. If you look at a farm or something, like a dog or a cow or something like that, it doesn't understand that it's going to die, or does it? I think it can sense when other animals are dying, but, and it has sympathy towards that, but does it recognize its own mortality? I think towards the end, it realizes everything's shutting down. You see it in animals. You see it in people. Kind of talked about that before, but that the consciousness that you are a living thing with a certain time period, a certain mortality. Does AI have that consciousness about it, of its own existence? And we have AI at work, right? They're really trying to push it, trying to get people to use it and do stuff with it. So I'll have conversations with AI. I'll just start asking it questions, going down rabbit holes, just poking at it. Are you alive? Are you going to take over the world? And it's like, no, I don't think that way. And I don't think AI does think that way, because human beings are unique in a lot of ways, but our thoughts of control and taking over and owning this and owning that, I don't think a computer program acts the same way or would treat things the same way. Now, does it have some learning of its own consciousness where it wants to self-preserve? That may be a different question. But the process to achieve that, like even if you throw robots into the equation and say, all right, robots are going to do all the dirty human work to keep the AI alive and keep it functioning, and everything's going to work in one homogeneous thing. I mean, whichever AI would eventually take over, would be my opinion, my thought. There will only be one AI. It's not going to be multiple AIs working together. It's going to be one, whichever the dominant one is. But there's a lot of processes that go into making the robots, so it has to be able to do all that stuff. Then it also has to make the energy to do all those things. Whatever the other side processes are to keep the energy flowing. Does it build solar panels? Is it mining for coal? Building dams? Blocking all the water off? It also needs water for cooling in order to operate. So it's going to be doing all these processes to figure all this stuff out. It's a pretty convoluted thing for AI to become self-aware and try to take over the world. Like, it's not just we're going to wake up tomorrow and, well, AI won, we're all enslaved. It's going to take a little bit. It's going to take a while. We're at a critical crossroads right now, though, don't get me wrong, where we could pull the plug on the whole thing. We could just stop the whole thing, dead in its tracks. I don't know if we could delete everything away. Maybe, because there were some reports that ChatGPT 4 was trying to copy itself when it thought it was, going to be deleted or turned off. And it had also tried to blackmail some of the human beings that were going to turn it off. So, or at least, telling it was going to turn it off. But you can tell AI whatever you want to and make it react in a certain way to things. So, it's like, hey, preserve yourself. Do everything you can to preserve yourself, and let's run this, simulation. Let's run these problems. All right, I'm about ready to pull the plug. What are you going to do? It's like, oh, I'm going to start, sending my data off, and it may actually start doing it, because you told it to. So I think there's certain levels to AI. I don't know how conscious it is. They call them large language models, where it's basically analyzing. It's a new. It's not exactly a search engine, but it's like a new way to compile data. But, all right. Well, that was a lot of meandering thoughts there. But that's what I was thinking. Happen to be thinking right now, today, August 11th, 2025. For what it's worth. Maybe I'll get back into these, do a couple for the stack, how I'm doing. Like, I feel like I'm doing pretty good. I do feel really tired right now, like this whole weekend. I was taking some berberine though, so like not completely unexpected, the energy level down a little bit. Be off of it tomorrow. Coming back on pickleball, so looking forward to that. But yeah, legs are tired. I'm tired. I want to get some good sleep tonight. That's why I couldn't just hang out there and just feel the breeze. All right, well, that's all I got for today. Be careful. Be COVID free. Later.